What's up, everybody? It's Chaos Fiends here. Hope you're having a great Wednesday. So today I want to talk about something pretty cool with the World of Warcraft story and how it's evolving. There's a lot of speculation on what the end of the expansion is going to look like. I know PTRs and whatnot will be up soon and all that jazz. But one thing I thought was really interesting is like I had a cool theory of like where I see the game going in the next little while. So I wanted to share it with everybody. So for me, I think, and I know this won't happen, but I mean, just bear with me here. So, a little tinfoil hat. So, I think that at the end of this expansion, we should see, this should be our, Empire Strikes Back. This should be a thing of, N'Zoth going free, and I mean, since Cthulhu and Yogg-Saron, and I guess technically Yasharaj to an extent, are we've only ever defeated portions of them, not the full entity, right? Like they were just like pustules growing out. So I think it would be a really neat idea. And it's sort of like a resurgence of the Black Empire type thing. He sort of succeeds. We're kind of the ones that accidentally did it for him. And then it goes from there. It goes that we end that expansion on a down note, right? Like it would make the hype for the next expansion so much greater because like every single expansion kind of gets tied up in this like neat little bow and is has a conclusion to the story. I mean, with the exception I guess of Legion, where we had, or not Legion, sorry, Warlords of Draenor, where we had Gul'dan kind of go off and we're like, oh man, that's going to be a thing at some point. But and I like those overarching stories between expansions because it makes this whole story kind of feel more immersive, right? It's not so like disjointed like story to story. So I think that would be a really cool thing to happen. That we're sort of like left almost feeling helpless that like the old gods have come back and they've sort of started to lay claim to where everyone was. And I think that would be really cool. Whether N'Zoth survives that or not, it would be cool if he survived it. But the next expansion, then it's almost like, if you want to think about it, kind of like how we've been going through the past couple expansions where, you decide, you pick your sort of like, beginning assault area, right? You're picking, whether you want to start your assault on, Cthulhu or Yogg-Saron. And having those like kind of like trying to quell the Black Empire, like cripple it like section by section, which I think would be really interesting because it would give itself to a lot of lore. It would have a lot of be a lot of really cool sequences you can kind of get out of that. And I think it would also lend itself to a lot of neat mechanics. Like look at the Yogg-Saron fight. Like having having to deal with the whole madness thing and like not going insane. Like there'd be so many neat mechanics you could use those with what they're the god of or like what their kind of MO is to kind of progress through those quest lines. And I think that would be amazing. Ultimately having, I feel like each of them would be their almost like own like raid, right? Like it'd be a raid at the end of it all for each kind of god, which I think would be cool because, it really like, I think Blizzard's done a really great job of building stories up to like where that final encounter in a zone is like a dungeon. But I think, going one step further, maybe having like, well, I think about like a hierarchical. Yeah. Anyways, hierarchy of some kind. So like having like, Cthulhu and then having like, in the raid, there'd be like Cthulhu and then like some of his like, higher ups or generals or whatnot. And it's like, having the dungeon portion of it almost be like a lieutenant or like like kind of doing that initial sort of like, well, not initial, but like once you've gone through the quest line, so your first kind of like big victory where you're really dealing that blow to them. I think that would be really awesome. I think a lot of people would really like it. I think story wise it would make a lot of sense. I know it won't happen, but I can dream. And then after that it's like, where do you go from there, you might ask? Well, what I think is after that is all said and done, then we start dealing with the light, I think, because the old gods and all of their scheming and everything else, I think it's obviously something that is going to go to the Void Lords eventually, right? But we've seen so far that like in Legion, that the light is not pure. We have we basically have, what's called, what was her name? I can't remember. Zira, I think. But like, she's like basically just, taking like goes against what Illidan wants and is like, nope, this is gonna happen. And we see it in the quest line to unlock the Magar orcs. Like, the Light Forged have just gone overzealous and just have, kind of gone that like fanatical route. And I think that, and like, I think a lot of these expansion things that I'm mentioning are good because it really doesn't make parts of the world feel dead. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Azeroth in general has like, I mean, how many fucking continents do we have now? You know what I mean? Like, you never go back to Pandaria, which, I mean, that's fine, whatever. I mean, but like, like Northrend, it's there, and we've gone back in like a couple quests, which is interesting, but like, there's so much cool lore there, and especially with the Lich King still being there, that, that lends itself to a whole other thing. And then I think like having those, like having the old god part of it would be interesting because you would get to go like, like the, like Silithus would be, I mean, right now it's kind of a big thing because, you have your Azerite shit there. But I think, it would make it so much more, right? Like having those instant zones that like, if you're below X level, it's just regular Silithus and shit. But if you're above X level, it's like it's the now Cthulhu assault that you're kind of going through. But I think that would be a really interesting thing. And with the Light, like it has a lot of potential to kind of go a bunch of different ways. Like, like we have a doll in in Shatrath. Like there's all of these like Naru kicking around. Well, not a ton, but there's some, right? And you have that plus I think too, like you have Yrel in like alternate Draenor, who is sort of leading that whole thing, and it'd be interesting to see those stories develop further because like I feel it's like she had a cool story to start up, and you got to see that progression, which was awesome, but then it just doesn't like really go anywhere. You know what I mean? So like that would be it'd be neat to see all of that. I think so. Like, and then yeah, obviously it'd be the whole thing against the Light, sort of being slightly corrupted, and the dream's been corrupted, and you have all this corruption kind of like sort of seeping in from all angles. And I think maybe in that have something to do with the worlds, with like the actual like world soul of Azeroth, Elune we still have, and I think realistically, like at the end of it all, like obviously it's gonna be the Void Lords at the very end of it in some capacity, but how we get there is gonna be interesting. So I mean, this is all speculation. I mean, I just like to think of like what could be, you know what I mean? Like I honestly still think that Sylvanas may, I think it was Taliesin was saying, and I never really thought about it, but like Taliesin was talking about like maybe we'll have a Lich Queen, maybe she takes over for Bolvar, and I think that'd be a really neat story arc for her because it would be a way to keep her in the story. Because, like, the Lich King's cool, and I mean, we have Bolvar, which, I mean, he's done some questionable shit, but there's nothing really for him. Like, there's no emotional attachment to him, right? Like, sure, there's the whole Wrathgate part of it, but, like, besides that, it's not like everyone was like, yeah, Bolvar before that. Like, no one, he, like, got introduced, and then that just kind of happened. Whereas, like, Sylvanas, they don't want to kill her off, because she's a fan favorite. It's not going to happen. But, on the flip side of that, they need to keep her somewhere, right? And it's like, you can't just have her kind of like, I don't think they can have her just disappear forever. And I mean, I think a Rise of the Lich Queen kind of idea that Taliesin mentioned, I think that's a pretty cool idea. Like, I would love to see that because, I loved Wrath of the Lich King. I mean, for me, I'm always, I'm BC forever because, like, to me, it was the most well-crafted expansion. I'll get into that in another video, though, because I could talk about that all day. But, like, Wrath of the Lich King had a lot of really great story. It had a lot of great things going for it. I mean, to go back to that, I think, would be really great. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up for me. Yeah, just some ideas, take from it what you will. I mean, I hope Blizzard kind of, take some of that stuff, kind of under advisement when people, because it's not, obviously everyone has their own theory. But, like, I think as much as they have their own vision, I think that's great. But, like, I think taking almost some small ideas or some concepts, from creators, for me, I listen to Taliesin, I listen to Bellular, I listen to Nobble, I listen to Pyromancer, and like those four together, like have really like I don't know, they've inspired me for one, but they've also really put content out there that, you know, like Nobble's really great about informing people of things. You know, his lore videos second to none. There's nothing better. You know, man, I listen to that stuff at work. Well, it helps me to kind of focus. But you know, and like Pyromancer and Taliesin are really good at putting an interesting spin on things. And Belial is more news, I guess. But you know, I find Taliesin and Pyromancer are to me, those are the two that are, they're really good with speculation and kind of like, you know, pushing the envelope a little bit, like not thinking to like, you know, typical Blizzard fanboy, and like they're not just straight lore either. Like, you know, Pyromancer talks out about, you know, Chronicle all the time, which I think he's right. It's, you know, there's a lot of things that are not quite adding up in a lot of that. But that's going to do it for me today. I know I said that already once, but but anyways, hope you guys are having a great Wednesday, and see you next time. Peace.